Good morning. My name is Jennifer Ryan, and on behalf of the Alliance of Women in Workers' Compensation, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Today's webinar is titled Exploring Growth Mindset with Industry Leaders, will last approximately 40 minutes and is a pre-recorded webinar from this year's EWC conference being broadcasted today, Thursday, July 14th, 2022. Before we get started, I would like to thank our 2022 corporate sponsors for their support on hosting events such as this. They support us not because they want their logos up on a screen, but they support the cause, which is to affect positive change in the workers' compensation industry through networking, support, mentoring, and collaboration. The Alliance is inclusive of all professionals in workers' compensation, regardless of career stage, with the belief that we can all learn from and support each other. Please be sure to head to the AWWC website for all upcoming events. We are excited to be hosting webinars, collaboration sessions, as well as in-person events throughout 2022. Be sure to check back on our website for registration details. If you cannot make one of our live or in-person events, don't worry. Webinars and our main board-led events will be recorded and on demand for our followers. Our theme this year is Acknowledge, Adjust, Advance. Each quarter, our webinars and events will be centered around each mini theme. This quarter, we focus on topics around evolving the norm. Be sure to join in these discussions as we facilitate both virtual and in-person events. Have you joined our book club yet? It's not too late, as this year we launched our 2022 book club with 6 books to choose from previous keynote speakers the Alliance had at our events in 2021. If you love reading books, be sure to head to the AWWC website to join up for Q3 or Q4. Change is preceded by trust. It is through acceptance and inclusion that trust will be formed and positive impact will occur. The Alliance is committed to creating a safe space in the workers' compensation industry for women of diverse backgrounds and experiences through a shared culture that integrates various perspectives. This is who we are and who we will be. The time to do better and be better is now. The Alliance understands that diversity is a journey that will take time to make meaningful changes for our organization, its followers, and supporters. We will be intentional in making progress along our key pillars of change. This session is designed to show what growth mindset means in action. Our panelists will provide lessons learned and explain how their mindset has transformed throughout their careers. This session provides suggestions for you to consider as you develop awareness around growth mindset and hone in on your skills. Today's panel includes Moderator Kendra Davies, panelist Roxy Carmona, President and CEO of Alta Claims Services, Darcy Lincoln, Assistant Vice President of PMA Companies, and Don Watkins, Director of Integrated Disability Management at LAUSD. Although this is a pre-recorded session, please feel free to interact with other attendees in the Zoom chat feature seen on your screen. Thank you for the time you're spending with us today, and we hope you enjoy this webinar.
Welcome, ladies. We all have mics. You want to just do the double check and make sure that works?
I'm on mic check.
Mic check, mic check.
Mic check.
1, 2. It works. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I want to do maybe just a brief introduction so everybody knows who we are. Would that work? So give me your 30 seconds or less.
Hi, everyone. I'm Roxy Carmona, President and CEO of Alta Claims Services. I know a bunch of you out there. Thanks so much for coming out. We are a marketing consulting company in the casualty industry. I'm like, I don't know what else to say. I feel like I'm going to go into my story, so I'll let it go to you.
Okay. Thank
Hi,
you, Roxy.
I'm Darcy Lincoln. I am Assistant Vice President over Cost Strategies at PMA, and I am responsible for our medical networks, medical bill repricing, pharmacy programs, basically anything related to the cost, anything non-clinical, I'm responsible for.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm Dawn Watkins. I'm the Director of Integrated Disability Management for Los Angeles Unified School District. I educate the students of Los Angeles by providing disability services to our 70,000 employees.
Oh, wow.
And one more thing, today is Denim Day. It started in Los Angeles, So for those of you who were brave enough or wild enough to put on your denim, thank you.
Excellent. So this panel discussion is to talk about how do we apply and experience growth mindset in the workplace. And I'm going to start with Roxy.
Okay.
So one of the questions that I have for you is that in a world where we curate our lived experiences on social media, comparison and perfectionism can dominate our minds. Do you or have you struggled with this, and how do you address it for yourself? And as a leader, how do you address it for your teams?
Got it. So for me, honestly, I just compare myself to myself. I raise the bar for myself of what I want to accomplish, where I want to go, especially with our company. So when I see stuff on social media, I'm like, kudos to those people. They're working at their goals. They're doing themselves. You know, they're doing them. So that's awesome. But honestly, I just have the bar set for myself on where I want to go. And as a leader, we do the same with our employees as well. We have those conversations about how can we help you grow? Where do you see yourself? How can I help you as a leader get to those next goals that you want to have? You know, as Alta grows, how can I help you? So I feel like that's how, you know, I help them. And it helps me too. Because then I understand for myself, you know, what I need to do to grow and to help them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And for Darcy, we know that a mindset is a set of beliefs that influence how we think, perceive, and behave. What fixed belief did you have earlier in your career or life that you have shifted into a growth mindset over time?
Well, this one's a little personal, but I had to be perfect. I always had to do the best, not make mistakes. I was fearful of making mistakes, and I think it had to do how I grew up, and I brought that into my career early on. I worked under a manager who helped me see it differently, and it helped me grow, and I started to change. It's like, oh, it's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn, and that's how it was presented to me. So early on, I was able to go, okay, it's time I can continue to grow by learning from what I've done, what could I have done better, how can I do it differently next time? And then it opened my ability to communicate more effectively about what it is. So I try to encourage that with the people that I work with, people that work for me. Always just talk. Let me know what's going on. And I think it helps them too to see things differently.
That's very interesting. You know, the perfectionism is so pervasive, and I find that the research is actually really clear, especially for women at work. We tend to lean on perfectionism, but we use it almost as fuel to say, this is how I'm driven, this is how I'm ambitious. And really what we're doing is we're burning ourselves out, right, by not honoring the mistakes and the lessons that we can learn, right? Something that you said that really stood out to me was like, I thought I had to be perfect, and like the amount of energy we exude or go through thinking that thought, just thinking that thought, right? And how that changes the way we maneuver through tasks, right?
So true.
That's very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
For Dawn, self-awareness and authenticity are at the heart of a growth mindset. So how do you continue to work on yourself as an individual, and or how do you encourage this kind of work with your teams, organizations, or family?
One of the things that I encourage is honesty with yourself. Now, we can tell all kinds of stories. We can lie about our weight, our age, our hair color. It's all okay. But be honest with yourself. At the beginning of my career, when I didn't have subordinates, when I was the subordinate trying to get ahead, I didn't understand that. But now that I've been managing people for 25 years, one of the first things I tell them is it's okay to make a mistake. But recognize that you've made a mistake, and let's learn from it together. Let's take the appropriate corrective action. Come to me before I find out. Because if I find out first, it's a different conversation. And recognize your own internal limitations. You don't know the organization, you don't know the top, whatever it is. But be willing to work towards it. And guess what? We all have customers, do we not? We all have customers, internal, external. Service the customer is a message that I always give to the staff that I work with. And I have to walk the talk. And I'm going to tell you a recent example. I had an employee, a customer, who was angry. She was rude, she was obnoxious. And then she started to criticize my employee, the work they had done. She went off topic, and I told her, wait a minute. You know, I've worked with this person for 15 years, and you're the first one that ever said that. But that's not why you called me. So I had to redirect. And I try to teach those skills to the people I work with as well. Let's focus on the work. Leave the personal attacks somewhere else.
It's very interesting because, another way to say that would be shifting over to process praise and process criticism, right? So it's not about acknowledging or attributing somebody's behavior to who they are as a person, but rather keeping it around the business and the process or procedure at hand. Yeah, very nice. And Miss Roxy, we have, how has cultivating a growth mindset or having a fixed mindset affected the development of new products or initiatives at work? And if I can, I really, really loved this question for you because of your story and how you grew your business during COVID. And
Right.
I would love if you would kind of help encapsulate some of that in your answer.
Of course. So many of you know me. You know, I love going to these conferences. I love going to lunches, dinners, happy hours, and all that. So when COVID hit, I was like, uh-oh, what am I going to do? Just like many of us, right, for work. Like, we can't see our peers anymore in person. So when everything came to a screeching halt, I was like, okay, sitting there with Eddie, and I was like, we need to, like, figure this out, or we're going to lose Alta, and I don't want to lose our company. And, you know, at this point, we had 4 or 5 partners with us, and they're ancillary service partners in this industry, and I'm marketing and doing business development for them. So I was like, well, I need to pivot. I need to figure this out, or I'm going to have to, like, not have a job. And I was like, pandemic and COVID, no, I'm going to figure this out. So I put my growth cap on, and I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? And so I'm looking at my calendar, and I look over at Eddie, and I'm like, okay, we're going to be shut down for 2 weeks. So I'm just going to look for the next 2 weeks, and then I'll figure it out. And he's like, Rox, no, we're going to be shut down for, like, longer than that. And I was like, you've gone crazy. No.
Isn't our ignorance for those first 2 weeks so cute?
I was like, no, it's 2 weeks. Just
Isn't that
2
so
weeks.
cute? You remember that?
Yeah. And he's like 6 months to maybe a year. And I'm like, boy, was I wrong. So a happy compromise, I did like a month and a half, and I'm sitting there looking at my calendar, and I'm like, okay, this. I'm like, what do I have that are my tools? You know I have social media over here. I have LinkedIn, I have Instagram, I have Facebook, and I can showcase our partners to still get those meetings set up with decision makers. And I'm okay, over here, I have these tools of Zoom. I don't know about you, but I never used Zoom until literally we were shut down. I was like, had an account and I never used it. So I was like, okay, I have Zoom, we have Teams, and my favorite, House Party. So I was like, okay, I can do my happy hours. So I'm writing down, okay, this is gonna become now a Zoom meeting. Okay, this is now gonna become a house party. Okay, so I go to my partners and I'm like, hey guys, I know the world completely shut down, but I don't wanna lose the momentum that we have. You know, at this time, the company was 1 year old. And I was like, I want to keep growing, and I want to grow with you, and I want to, make this into, whatever Alta is going to become. So our partners are like, absolutely. I like that you pivoted. You're that night that we literally got shut down. Here's the next day. I'm rolling out what we're going to do. So I do just that. And during this time, it's just Eddie and I. And so I'm like, okay, like we're gonna start doing these happy hours and mixers and whatnot via Zoom and house party. And so after a little while, I was like, okay, our partners were like on, we were pushing them out on social media and, getting those meetings lined up. And then I was like, okay, so what's next, right? So from there, I was like, how about we do like a half-day conference, like with WorkCom Central? And I was like, and showcase our partners that way and get, decision makers to speak with them to kind of show the industry that we have our partners here to help. And we're like, okay, and WorkCom Central, we did it, and that was like May. So as we grew,
May of 2020.
Yeah. So as we grew, I was able to bring on our CMO, and she helped me with like, marketing campaigns and like getting our partners out there. And so by then it was 3 of us, and then a little while later, it started morphing into we were getting more partners and showcasing stuff on social media. And I was like, okay, like this is awesome, we're growing, and during a crazy time.
Yeah.
And then it kind of morphed into a claims consulting side that Eddie heads up. And during this time in the last 2 years, we were able to bring on 3 more employees to help him with the claims consulting side. So again, it was like, all of this was happening during such a surreal time in my life. And I was like, I want to keep the company going. And if I would have stopped March 2020 and gave up, I would have never known what Alta was going to become.
So first of all, I think that is amazing. Yay.
Thanks.
Like, it's I love the stories of growth during COVID because I think that we all shocked ourselves.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, even when I think about like my yoga teacher friends, like they went from like, I do these 5 classes at 6 p.m. Monday through Friday to like, now I can operate Zoom and a camera and lighting and a microphone. Like, we learned these skills and we pivoted so quickly, and your story, I think, really showcases that. If I can, when you go back to that moment, right, where it's the shutdown and it's the next day and you show up with like a solution, what is the thing that you would identify between those that said, this is too much, I'm gonna stop, and then what you did, which is, oh yeah, hold my beer, COVID-19.
Hold my Roxy, for those who know me.
Exactly. What do you think is the defining difference in that moment? Like when you go back to the moment within and for yourself, what was the defining thing there that made you go left instead of right?
I didn't want to lose my company. I loved what I did so much that I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I just was like, I need to, be in that mindset of not giving up and pushing forward and seeing this big pandemic and COVID and everything that's happened in my way and trying to, be like, you're not going to get me, dude. Like, I'm going to move around and I'm going to figure it out. And I just feel like I'm so grateful and blessed that I was able to do that with the support of our staff, Eddie, and all of the industry, really, to keep us going during this time.
It's really powerful. Thank you. All right, Miss Darcy. As a leader, you set the tone for your team, but over time, as the team grows and new people join, what are the points of resistance you see most often? And or how do you hold the core values of a team while not being too rigid to evolve? I know that you guys know that I'm not good at being brief, and I apologize for all of the words. But Darcy, you actually have a really interesting story that, although my question was about new employees, you actually have a really powerful story about being at an organization for 20 plus years and then choosing to leave. So I would love to take that perspective within the form of this question.
Sure. Yes, so I was with an organization for 26 years, and I reached a place that I wanted to be challenged again. And it was, I think my growth mindset kind of pushed me there, and I didn't realize why I was kind of not feeling as charged as I used to. And so that's what started. I just opened my mind to possibility. But what I think really opened my mind was within my previous organization, there were a lot of new people coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand it. Like, I didn't understand their view on things. It was like they were always challenging everything, looking at everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I had evolved into something I didn't recognize anymore. I was really in that fixed mindset. I had moved from my creative growth mindset into more of a rigid, fixed mindset. And I was like, that's why I'm dissatisfied. I'm like, I'm not tapping into that creativity. I can continue doing this and be very successful for the rest of my career, but that's not what I want to do anymore. I want to continue to grow. So I just opened my mind to it, and I had this fantastic opportunity come, and I am so excited because now I'm able to help a new organization, grow in many different ways, and hopefully, I can benefit them as well. But I'm learning so much about myself. But what I take with me to the new organization is that understanding and appreciation of the longevity of the staff. So we have a great staff. A lot of people have been there a long time. But I take that knowledge of they got there from a specific place. Whatever decisions they made about product design or how things work, it was founded in good information at the time. So when you're looking at things, you include all of those individuals that were there to help create all of the processes and make sure that they're included. And then the newer ideas, feedback, thoughts, you include those in. But it's very important that the folks that have been there feel acknowledged, that you listen to them intently, communicate effectively with them so they understand that they're valued just as much. This new blood, this new way of looking at things is a good thing. So helping everybody move at the same direction, I think, is really key. Not always looking at what the new people are bringing is like, oh, that's the best, let's go over there and do that. But really be thoughtful and approach whatever situation where they understand that it's a thoughtful approach based on the history of how things were, but now we can evolve to a better place. And I think that's really key because when you go into an organization that has a lot of longevity, I think people feel that they get left behind. So as a leader, you have to model the way. You have to show them how it's done and help them. And I think, experience is probably the best in that. If you've had that experience, you know how to help the team evolve to that.
It's very interesting because what I hear you saying is not they need to be coddled or anything like that. It's a matter of being able to acknowledge. And I think that as leaders, it's one of the things we have to overcome often is that we can acknowledge and validate somebody's thoughts, feelings, emotions, and experiences without agreeing, without having to not also encourage growth and change and evolving. So I really appreciate that story because I think, especially in the context of a growth mindset, that we cannot nurture that in our teams if we cannot hold both things at once. Sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's not going to go the way that we want. Sometimes the things that we make become obsolete. Those are real things that are going to happen. And how do we actually model how to take that in stride and really honor the experiences of all? I appreciate that. All right, Ms. Dawn. Many leaders say there's a moment, often after they've been in a leadership role for some time, where they actually say to themselves, I'm a leader. Did you have that moment? And if so, when and what happened?
Before I answer that question, I want to go back to Roxy.
Yeah.
During this pandemic, she reached out to me. I knew her before, but some of the things that she did to stay connected, not just with me, but probably with some of you in this room, was just that human connection I needed when I was home, just me and the husband. We talked about new legislation. We talked about ways to get the work done. We talked about what the work was. She walked the talk, and I'm forever, ever grateful to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm so glad that you picked up and that we became closer during that time. I actually became closer with a lot of people during that time.
But you asked me when did I, about when I realized I was a leader. And it certainly wasn't at the beginning of my career. I started out in claims. If any of my claims people are here, thank you, I love you. But at some point along the way, I did realize, wait a minute, I'm in charge. My boss, I don't need to go to my boss for validation, for confirmation. I'm technically competent. I am not afraid because I can get another job if I need to. And what I started to do was I was more creative. But I also shared with my staff, well, if they said, well, I'm just going to ask your boss. And I said, you can ask anybody you want to, but you're going to get the work done. These things that take our program forward, that lead us. And I shared with staff the opportunity that they were being given to help create. Let's create a new way of communicating with our customers. And it was really important for me to pull in my staff, get them engaged, get them excited, get them enthusiastic about the opportunity to do impactful work in a different way. I love being the boss. I'm not going to fool any of you. I was born to be in charge.
Yes, you were.
And, I was talking to the CFO the other day, and he talked about some project he was going to do. And I said, you do realize that is my work. And you're not going to do my work. You don't need to. Go help somebody who needs help. And he said, okay. He said, okay, and he went off and did other things. I said, you're going to have your project, and it's going to be outstanding. And it was.
It's interesting, you said, getting other people excited, and I think that the moments where where the stars align and head, heart, and gut align, and we recognize that we're leaders, it actually opens up and frees up the space to actually shift over to really inspiring and holding vision and being able to actually lift up the other people around us.
And she talked about engaging others, and lighting that fire under people who had been dormant and have been doing the same job the same way for so long. And we can't ignore opportunities and folks who can help us move our organizations forward.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. And then my last question is actually to each of you. And I would love each of you guys to chime in when you have a response ready. But we discussed person and process praise and criticism. But when someone is really not doing a good job, how do you practice process criticism when providing difficult feedback?
I'll go first.
Yes.
Ask Eddie Canavan. I fire him every day. So I work on my feedback with him. I'm like, what just happened? You're fired. No, joking aside, honestly, it's just, honestly, I feel like with any feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, you just need to be in communication with the person. And so they don't feel blindsided when you come to them and say, hey, you're not meeting your expectations, and this is what your outline of your job entails, and we need to have that discussion about how to get you to where you need to be. So then that way they're not blindsided.
Okay, I love that. I think talking about that culture of feedback and the idea that if we are in constant communication, then not only when I do offer corrective feedback are you going to feel taken off guard, because you know that you can expect the feedback to come.
Exactly.
I would agree that communication constantly is a really good thing. But when it's difficult, you take the personal out of it. So it's not, they are not performing to their job expectations, but a lot of people take it personally. So by giving specific examples of what it is, how it affected it, at the job and what they've learned is really key. It's just what you shared. If you can communicate in a way that resonates with them, everybody's different. So you would say similar things, but what resonates with that person, and that they need to know it's not a personal attack on them. It's what do you need to be supported more effectively? What did you learn from not meeting this, whatever it is, but really focusing on that behavior that caused it and having them have the epiphany of why. Why did I fail? You know, you don't have to bluntly say it, but have them think about it and talk more openly.
Were you ever given person criticism at work? Like, did you have a negative feedback experience that helped kind of inform and shape how you would your future self would provide feedback? Because I know feedback was what helped you move through your fixed perfectionism mindset, right? So I'm curious to know if there was that experience.
Yes, I had a boss that was attacked, more personal, gave me personal, you know, and I took it that way. And now I look back and I'm like, did he really say it that way?
Right.
Or
When
did
you
I
do the
take
work, you're like, was it me?
Yeah. And I honestly think it was me personally taking it that way.
Yeah.
So I take responsibility for that now. At the time I didn't, I blamed him.
Yeah.
But I actually went to his boss's boss and gave the feedback, and I said, you know, this didn't feel right. This is what happened, and I don't know if I can continue working with that person. And in hindsight, I look at it, and it was the right thing because I wasn't the only person that had. And he got coaching, mentoring. He got moved through that, and it was a better relationship. But I think you can't be afraid if there's something that is a personal attack versus performance based.
It's very interesting. I find that I want to find something other than interesting to say, because every time I open my mouth, I lead with that. So I'm going to try to find something other than interesting to say. But I'm curious. When it comes to actually providing feedback when we have poor performance and we take the personal out, what do we put in? And I think that as I've role-played with executives on how to provide feedback, it's easy on the surface to say we just take out the personal, but I do believe we actually have to add those things in and have structure to the feedback for ourselves as the people delivering it to be able to communicate effectively and to actually be able to remove the personal. Is there anything that kind of stands out to you that you've gotten over time?
I would say it's really just focusing on the behavior that got them to that. So if, you know, they're not managing timelines, if they don't have a good project plan to start out with, and hopefully you're having those touch points so they don't get into that position, but it's really putting the structure around the behavior that got them there, and looking at what is the root issue. You know, it's not a personal, it's something, either a skill that's missing or an unclear expectation, or so both of you can learn in some cases.
Nice. I like it. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Donna?
I am so grateful that I've had an opportunity to develop, grow, and evolve through interactions with my colleagues, my superiors, the people that I lead and support. But I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened to me mid-career. I was having a performance review at a job that I loved, and I thought I was great. And my boss said, yeah, your work is great, but I don't know how to tell you this. But the staff is scared of you. Like, me? How could that be? And she said, I have a couple of emails that you've sent to people, and you use words that they don't understand, and they have to look them up. And you don't say good morning when you come in. You just go to your desk and do a pile of work. And they're scared. It was an aha moment. Well, first of all, I taught her a little bit about diversity.
Yeah.
Because I said, my family's from the Caribbean. We speak the Queen's English. An expansive vocabulary is expected in my family, but I will tone that down. And I did. But the lesson was perception and how to be effective, and how to recognize the individuality in people. Now, I'm not talking about if you have 200 employees, you're going to know every one. But it was the opportunity to learn from that criticism. And I'm going to tell you, now people say, she says, good morning every day. My goodness, what's wrong with her? How can she be cheerful? But it was the perception, and it was part of my evolution to being someone who was approachable, someone who was your business partner. I'm your boss, but I'm your business partner as we get the work done. What a wonderful journey work has been in terms of personal development, in terms of professional growth, in terms of getting to meet some of you. One of my she-ros is right over there. Karen, thank you. I think I've known her for 30 years and admired her for 31. Yeah, you do the math. And there's so many other people in this room at different stages of their career. Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to try something different. And I am never afraid to borrow something out of your book and make it better for mine. But I would encourage everyone. I've done it. I've learned to work with a diverse group of people and actually pull them in and engage them into the story, into the customer service, into the work that we do. And today, you know, an opportunity to hear from you and talk about the growth mindset. I don't know if I've ever written so many notes before. I wish I had brought my iPad, but thank you.
Yes, thank you. What a lovely, lovely response. The thing that stood out to me is that when we received that confrontation, like what came up as you were talking was about personal brand. You know, because what I'm trying to paint the picture for you guys when it comes to growth mindset in your industry and as leaders, personal branding is actually everything. And when we have fixed mindsets, it disconnects us from people. Yes? Because it disconnects us from ourselves. We can only go as deep with others as we can go with ourselves. And so from pivoting in times of crisis to radically choosing a career shift who would make this decision, right? On the outside it might look crazy, but it's so brilliant for yourself. And then Dawn, to have the level of expertise and such a clear line of growth, right? How do we decide who we're going to be? And what you said that stood out was perception, because how do I want you to feel when you interact with me? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we can go through our entire work careers and never once pause to think, how is it perceived? I know what I thought, I know what I wanted, but how was it actually received? And when we talk about clear communication, when what I say matches what I do and it's what you actually understood, being able to bridge that gap often starts with our minds. So being able to have that conversation and receive that and then apply it and actually shift to serve others later is really a beautiful framework for it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.